Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and we are getting set for our first Europa League home game of the season. And this is one that has been firmly marked on the calendar, and it feels like we've been staring it down on the horizon for a little while. With all the stuff going around Celtic off the pitch right now, with transfer windows, ticket packages, the board, fan protests, and everything else. But we are finally here, and this is a game where, yeah, there's going to be a lot of chat and a lot of drama and, talking points around all the off-field stuff. But make no mistake about it, it is going to be all eyes on the starting 11 from Brendan Rodgers in this one, as Celtic look to get their first win in the Europa League. We did our full Europa League preview on the channel a few weeks ago. I'll link it at the end of this video and in the description of this one in case you missed it, of course. But I think no matter how you look at it, whether you're being a pessimist or an optimist, if Celtic are going to do well in this Europa League campaign, points at home are a must, and particularly at home to Sporting Club Braga. The play we've seen from Celtic over the last couple of games has seen some incremental improvements game by game, but ultimately we are still lacking a little bit of that cutting edge in attack, and it will be really interesting to see how Brendan approaches and attacks this game. In the video today, we'll preview what we expect to be the Celtic starting 11 for the game, as well as what to expect from Sporting Club Braga in terms of their predicted team formation and all that good stuff. In the video, at any point, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And this is the video, guys, to leave your score predictions, your man of the match shouts, your hot takes and score predictions and all the predictions you can think of for the game in the comment section of this video. Let me know who you think is going to stand up and be counted, who might let the side down, or who you think could be the match winner on the day. But yeah, let's just get stuck straight into this one, because it is really all eyes on what team is Brendan Rodgers going to pick for this one. And as we lay out the squad, as we find it coming into this game, it does feel a little bit more balanced all of a sudden. CeltsAreHere were invited to the press conference with Brendan Rodgers before the Hibs game, and we've seen the evolution of Daizen Maeda coming back into the right hand side here. And it feels like when you balance that off in the front line with the options we've now got really at full back, we know about all the options we've got in the midfield area, of course. Although the level and the quality and the transfer window, all that stuff to one side, the squad does feel like it's taking shape right now, doesn't it? We're starting to see where the main runners and riders are, and really who should be the main contributors in each of the different positions. It's going to be a foregone conclusion that we're going to have Kasper Schmeichel in goals, with Liam Scales and Cameron Carter-Vickers in defence. But the fullbacks is the main talking points, I feel, from a lot of Celtic fans coming into this game, rather than it being the midfield or the attack. None less so than Marcelo Sarace, who was a real hero in the game against Hibs, and really every appearance that Sarace's made, whether it be in defence or attack, he has shown he has been a very worthwhile member of the Celtic team and has really added to the options and the depth that we have. But I don't think this is going to be a game that Sarace will start. I could see him starting it on merit, on ability, fitness and everything else. We've got to feel that Kieran Tierney being rested at the weekend is firmly going to be a precursor for him to start this game. Now, the interesting thing about the left-back development that we've had here is Sarace is shown to be very capable in attack and defence, like I've already mentioned. And I feel that starting with Tierney, who can offer a lot down the left, has been very effective in the final thirds, the few attempts that he gets there. He's going to be the guy that we start off with, because defensively I think he's probably the best player equipped to deal with any of the attacks that we're going to be facing from Braga. And as the game goes on, no matter what the game state is, Sarace can come on and either shore up shop or help us maybe have an extra kind of vigour down the left hand side. So I feel that this is probably just going to be a very logical selection, and ultimately we're going to see Kieran Tierney starting his first European home game at Paradise in a fair while, sadly not the Champions League. But the other right back spot isn't as clear cut, it feels like. Anthony Ralston came in for Colby Donovan at the weekend, and Ralston performed pretty well. He got fantastic statistics out of the game and performed, like I say, pretty well, but in comparison to what we've seen from Donovan, who has been a lot more, ambitious, let's just say, in the way he plays, a little bit more creative in how he buys space for the winger he's got on his side of the pitch, and his general athleticism, it feels like right now he's maybe just got an extra string in his bow, an extra kind of weapon in his arsenal than maybe what Anthony Ralston has. But what Ralston does have over Donovan is, of course, a vast amount of experience at international level, as well as playing in these European games for Celtic. And this is probably one of the closest calls, one of the toughest decisions that Brendan's going to have with picking this team, because I think all things being equal on football merit and who offers more to the team, you're probably going to pick Kobe Donovan. It's also a great investment in time and experience into a player that we imagine is going to be a part of the squad for much longer than what Ralston will be, just given their age, of course. But he has a little bit green behind the gills, and although he has came through all of his games so far with flying colours, playing under the floodlights at Paradise in a must-win European game is, again, a totally different kettle of fish to Kilmarnock away. And don't get me wrong, Red Star away was a big game, but I think that was quite an easy one for Rodgers to play him in. A bit less expectancy around getting a win, getting a positive result. And although he has stepped up and he has shown himself, I think, to be of the first team level, I'm really undecided about how Rodgers is going to call this one, to be honest with you, because again, equally similar to the Tierney dilemma, you can use both of them, I would imagine, over the 90 minutes. And if Donovan was to start, you imagine that might be more the thinking that if we win the game, or if we get ahead in the game, we take a lead with this more attack-based defence with someone like Donovan, you could then kind of turn down the notch a little bit by bringing on Ralston later on and being a bit more secure defensively. So it will really be a case of what Rodgers prefers. In terms of, for me, for my predicted team for the weekend, or for the midweek, I beg your pardon, I am going to go with Anthony Ralston on the simple fact of experience in this one. Because Braga are a different enemy, or a different level of opponent compared to Red Star. The attacking players that they've got, I think you want the experience that Ralston gives to make sure, especially early going in the game, just no mistakes are made and we shore up shop. But I am very again, I could see Donovan doing a very good job at right back as well. We'll talk about the Braga team and we'll maybe revisit right back, but I'm going to edge on to Ralston. McGregor, of course, walks into the midfield, but I think for the first time there's maybe a space in the video to talk about the other midfield options, because I think we know it's going to be Hatate and Ben Negren, of course, but with us seeing a fantastic performance from Luke McKeown this weekend, Arnie Engels still not really quite got into his groove this season, and we even seen Bernardo feature from the bench at the weekend. There could be some room here for Brendan to do something a little bit different in midfield, because McKeown's range of passing was a bit more long range and a bit more direct than what we get from Hatate. McKeown did a great job of switching the ball and finding wingers, as well as just being an attacking based midfielder, rather than Hatate, who does press support with the front line, but you will always see Hatate come back into these deeper zones of the pitch to get on the ball and try and dictate the tempo. I think after the Red Star game, it was quite disappointing from an Hatate perspective, because this is a guy that's played in 4 Champions League campaigns at this point, has played against some of the best players in the history of football, never mind some of the good and the great of the current European landscape. And coming into the Europa League, there's a few players in the squad that we expect should help us be a cut above the rest. Daizen Maeda comes into this category, as well as the likes of Vickers and 1 or 2 others, but Hatate really is the top of that list, where this is a game that he really does need to grab by the scruff of the neck, and especially after, I think, how good McKeown played at the weekend, Hatate should have a bit of a wake-up call that some of the passes that we see McKeown doing, he should have a bit more of that in his arsenal. And this is a game where, again, Hatate really needs European games where he is the match winner, he is the decisive player for us, to stake his claim for the Japan national team, and really for everything else that is around the Rio Hatate, kind of thing, if he's ever going to be sold on and all the rest of it, because he needs to have big games in his locker, big moments in his highlight reel, and in Europe he's just not really quite had enough of them. And a midfield of Moutinho and Gorby should be pretty good for Hatate, getting in amongst them and making things really difficult for them. So as much as I think a lot of people are putting a lot of eyes and a lot of pressure on Negren to be that attacking midfielder to deliver, if Hatate is going to play this game as well, which we kind of feel that he will if he's fit, he has so much on his shoulders to be the match winner, to be the guy that makes the difference, that unlocks the attack, that gets the attack going in this game, and really makes the most of playing against this type of shape, this type of formation, because we don't often play against a team that should be giving us more space in Hatate's type of zones, where he will be on the ball a lot more often, might have a little bit less pressure on him. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure they'll make it tough for him every time he's on the ball, but generally, unless they're super banked in like this, Hatate should have a lot more space to be able to go around the pitch. And Parkhead Paradise, he should be seeing this is my backyard and you're in my place. This is my ball. This is my game, and I'm here to run it. And that's the sort of Hatate performance I think we're looking for. And if Rodgers wants to be a bit more attacking, be a bit more direct, this could be a great game for McKeown to stand up and really He's a guy that played no European minutes of note last season. I think he got like one appearance off the bench last year in the Champions League, if memory serves me right. So when it comes to the European experience, he's not got as many miles on the clock, as it were, compared to a lot of the other players, but his play style might be what Rodgers would go for. So, I don't want to rule McKeown out, but I think it is going to be Hatate, isn't it? And I say Engels, it's a little bit harder to imagine he would come in for Hatate, but Hatate did miss the team entirely, and Brendan was chatting about he's been feeling his hamstring and stuff like that in the pre-match to the Hibs game. Didn't feature at all at the weekend. We'll watch for training pictures, of course, in the build-up to the game. But could we see either an Engels or a Bernardo start in midfield alongside someone like Negren? Again, this is something that Rodgers did quite a bit in Europe last year, think about Atalanta away, most notably, where you would have the attacking midfielder, and last season it was Rio Hatate exclusively, whereas now it could be Negren or even a McKeown at an absolute stretch, with one of the other two players buckling inside with McGregor and making that midfield area a lot more compact and a lot more difficult for the opposition to play through. So I think there's a little bit of latitude here that something different could happen with the midfield. It's maybe a bit more predicated on the availability and the fitness of Hatate rather than down to being an outright decision that the manager might make around style and formation. But if Hatate wasn't ready to play this game, I would love to see Engels and Negren play as a pair. But I do think if that was going to be something that was likely to happen, we would have seen it at the weekend as, again, a bit of a setup, a bit of a precursor for it. So I think it most likely is going to be Hatate was rested at the weekend and he's going to come straight back into what we know and recognise to be Brendan's first choice midfield. Now, when we get to the forward areas, we've got Balikwisha, we've got Teneke. They're going to own the left-hand side for 90 minutes, very similar to Tierney and Sirachi. And I quite like the development that we've got there. I would have liked to have seen Balikwisha come off the bench earlier at the weekend. And even when we're chatting about this whole midfield dynamic here, I would much rather, if you ask me, Quinny, you can get to pick one midfield pair, like, to see, I would go with Engels and Negren. But I would be very tempted to try a midfield of Balikwisha and Negren. Now, Balikwisha does seem to, like, float around in the match a little bit. But as you can see, when he is engaged, like, he gets in amongst it. He does go and engage people. He does tackle, and he's maybe not really that wingery winger that Teneke is, and that's maybe why he's not quite found his place in the team yet. You do see that he wants to be narrow and he wants to be involved in play with other players, and maybe something like that could be fun. But I don't think that's realistically going to be tested out in a must-win game, as it were. So I think Balikwisha has not done enough to oust Teneke to start here, but so yeah, I think this kind of just makes itself happen, doesn't it? And with the right-hand side, with the revelation from Brendan that Dyson can play on the right-hand side and done so when Jota was the main left winger at the team, kind of makes its own decision, I think, doesn't it, in the right wing position. Yang has showed really good energy and tempo in the games he's played the right wing, and Forrest, I think, in the Red Star game was very good off the bench, and I think getting Forrest on for the last 15-20 minutes of games in these types of matches is really what we should be paying him the money for, for keeping him in at the squad. We don't want to be, and he'll start matches, of course he will, because he's good and he's Forrest and we want him to score and keep his legacy going and everything, but between those two, it's been a backup right wing, I think is good squad depth without it being excellent. But it very much does paint towards the fact that we're going to start with Dyson on the right and Teneke on the left, and of course it's going to be Iheanacho that starts through the middle. Now, one of the things that's been really good to see in periods of the season so far where we've had better matches has been the link-up play between Negren and Hatate, and I think that is going to be absolutely key. It's going to be absolutely fundamental to anything that we do well in this game, because both players love to join the press in the attack and make it really difficult for the defence to play out, and both of them are really happy to get deep down on the pitch with McGregor and again try and build up the play from the back and make things happen. And with having such a mobile midfield like this, we are asking big questions of the likes of Teneke and Dyson. Now, the good thing about having Dyson on the right hand side of the pitch, and especially if we do have Ralston on this side, is we really should be able to focus a lot more down the left, and we should see Negren kind of crossing this imaginary line down the middle of the pitch a lot more, and to help us like focus down the left hand side a lot more, so we can get Teneke on the ball to try and dribble in and around the box and make some chances, but mainly so that we can get Dyson to tuck in really tight and narrow and create that kind of inside forward role that he does really well, and he's done last season on the left, but we want him to do the same thing on the right. And with the likes of Ralston being quite capable of being narrow and compact and just kind of shutting out, this kind of middle area here, if the midfield are going a bit freer, having the ability of someone like Tierney to pick his moments to get forward and be really effective when he does, feels like it's going to be the main plan of attack, isn't it? It's keep Iheanacho in amongst the defence, keep them occupied, and then can we get down the left often enough? And hey, if we do need to switch the play, Dyson's a great guy to find in space to, work the ball, change the point of attack, all that caper that we like to do to go down the other side. And Dyson, I would fancy his chances against his opposite number to give him, a real handful and create some real problems. And especially, if we are playing a bit more down the right-hand side with a bit more confidence, because we've not really been doing that so far this year. Negren, if you think back to the Red Star game, he operates in these wide areas very, very well. He's maybe just not got that blistering pace in the attack wing position that Brendan wants, like we see from Tuneke, for example. But we can see how effective Negren can be operating in and around these areas. And having someone like Dyson to play with in these zones, I think you'll get a lot more out of Negren as a result. And I hope that we can have a very forward-thinking match, because if we have a look at the Braga team, this is the way that they're expected to line up in a 3-4-3 or a 5-4-1 type of formation, depending on how you want to think of it, with the fullbacks coming back, Moutinho and Gorby being really deep, and then the boy Zalazar and Horta. Horta's quite a wingery, wide forward, but Zalazar is going to have freedom to roam and is their primary playmaker. This is going to be very similar to what we had to deal with against Hibs in terms of not a lot of space in and around the edge of the box. We all know what Lagerbielke is like. The rest of the defence can be quite similarly thought of in the terms of they are no-nonsense defenders. They'll make headed clearances and they'll just make sure to clear their lines, get the ball out. Hornacek's a decent keeper, but we'll need to take lots of shots to really be testing him. But if we are going to be focusing down our left hand side, which would be Braga's right hand side, that kind of works into their favour. One of their best players so far this year has been Leandro Lelo, who is their left wing back, and especially with Zalazar being most likely to feature on the left hand side of the pitch, this Ozani guy's got a huge work ethic and energy to him as well. That might just be exactly what they want to do, where we focus a lot more of our bodies, a lot more of our energy down one side of the pitch, and then when they turn the ball over and clear it, they've got a great exit, they've got a great route to go and counter-attack with some of their most dangerous players, with only really needing 2 or 3 of them to be ready to spring off and go on and attack us. So this will be a very cat and mouse game, I feel, in terms of Braga are not going to come and try and win the game from the very offset. They're not going to try and get their foot on the ball and dominate play, although João Moutinho is a very seasoned campaigner in a lot of different high levels of European football, and the boy Gorby is proven to be a very good bodyguard to him. So his range of passing to set away counter-attacks for the likes of Ricardo Horta, Oizani and Zalazar is what they are going to be thinking about as being their main route to goal, as well as their wing backs if they can get in and behind. He's not going to get in and behind Ralston, but I think that's why you want that defensive position of Ralston, just to make sure these guys don't get any space. And you've got that experience of someone like Anthony Ralston, who's played against players of this calibre and made sure he's not been mugged off, he's not let the side down in any way. Because really, down the left hand side, this guy Horta is not going to really get much change out of Tierney. Maybe they double up. We've seen that with Red Star, that their boy Ivanic was free to kind of roam and double on the pitch. Maybe Braga do something similar as well and just try and cheat code their way through the pitch or into counter-attack situations, and that's something we'll need to watch out for. But sincerely, I don't think, looking at this Braga team, they've got tons of goals in them, especially with how good our defence has been this year. It's been one of the highlights, one of the main positives of the year so far. The gap in between defence and midfield that I'm kind of exaggerating at the moment by moving McGregor forward is going to be the real do or die moment for us in defence. If we sell that area of the pitch for guys like Zalazar and Horta to pick up the ball in, and they've got runners and they've got support coming off them, as well as an actual striker to play with, they could give us a lot of problems, and we'll really need Schmeichel to earn his crust here, as well as the likes of Carter Vickers and Scaldini, Liam Scales. And when I look at us and think about them defending, and I think how many goals could Celtic get in this in terms of chances? We missed 7 big chances at the weekend, and how might we actually perform in this game? Will we deliver? Will Tuneke show himself to be a top-end Europa League player and have a really good performance in a game like this? Will we see Iheanacho continue his really good form in front of goal and take the chances that come his way? And will we get Dyson waking up? And I don't mean that in such a rude way, but I know he scored recently, but we've not really got him yet this year, has he? He's been very much sleepwalking, it feels like, or being kind of absent of mind throughout the season so far, just missing something. And if we could get that real click in the front line, I think that will be really the be all and end all of how many goals we can create and score in this one. I do fancy us to get a goal from maybe one of the unlikely characters in the rest of the team, but all of our goal pressure is really coming from the front three. If they're not getting in amongst it, if they're not making things happen, we will run out of ideas very quickly. I think Iheanacho's good for a goal in a game like this because the level of opposition is definitely not above him, and the sort of defenders he's playing against, he definitely has enough experience and enough of the striker kind of the tricks of the trade to buy a yard to get a shot away. We've seen that against Red Star, and I think we could quite easily see that in this game. But I don't see this as being a game that Celtic win 1-0. When I did my Europa League preview at the beginning of this tournament, I did say that I had this game down as being a win because Braga, very, very good at home, but they very clearly don't have a very good away record. Part of that will be in contrast to such a good home record, that the away record just will never look as good by comparison, but they do famously travel bad in general anyway. Could we beat them 1-0? I'm not going to rule that out, but I don't think 1-0 is going to be enough because I think they will carry a threat in this game. Do they definitely score? I'm not too sure, but I think we are going to need to score 2 in this one, and I think I really have so much faith in our defence to keep a team like this out, but I don't have as much faith in the overall team to control the game as well as they should for the full game, to make sure the defence get out of it in one piece, if that makes sense. So I'm really I'm going to say 2-0 or 2-1, and I really can't decide which. I'm going to go for 2-0 because I really do think the defence has been top shelf, and I don't think Braga, I think they've got enough weapons to hurt us, but I don't think they're quite powerful enough to definitely score against us. So I'm going to err on the side of optimism, and I'm going to go with Celtic to win this by 2-0. On screen now is the full Europa League preview that we did at the start of the tournament in case you missed it and you want to catch up. The great thing about that video is you can leave down your total points prediction of what Celtic are going to get in this Europa League campaign. Yes, we're 1 game down, but feel free to play along as the tournament goes on, as well as some other stuff that we've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. If you haven't done so already, please do hit like and subscribe for more content like this. Get into the comment section, let me know your score predictions for Braga, who's your man of the match shouts, and all that good stuff, guys. Hail, hail, stay out of trouble, enjoy the game, Mon the Hoops.